about what is accent and intonation as well. We also talked about word and its structures, isn't that? That means we talked about morphology, we talked about morphemes, different types of morphemes there, like free morphemes, bound morphemes, functional morphemes, and derivational morphemes. Then we move to what is sentence, how do we form the sentences from phrases. We also have talked about phrases, then talk about verbs, different types of verbs as well. Okay. And now we are going to talk about two different units in block number 5, that is beyond the sentences. Okay, so we were restricted in the first 4 units up to sentences, but now we are going to discuss about language beyond the sentences. Okay, that is what is called discourse. The first unit of this class will be like discourse analysis, and then we will talk about the varieties of English language. Just so today we are going to talk about discourse and discourse analysis. Okay. Now, what is discourse? Let's talk about discourse. Is it visible to you? I hope that it is visible to you because I have shared my screen. So today's class we will talk about discourse and discourse analysis. Then we will move to the second unit, that is varieties of English language. So if you have the book with you, you can refer to the chapter number 19, unit number 19. So discourse is nothing but is a piece of language that is bigger than a sentence. Now, this is not the end of the definition of this discourse, because when we talk about discourse, we have to take so many things into our considerations. Like we have to take the use of that particular language. We also have to take the society in which we are using that particular language. We have to talk about the domain. We have to talk about the mediums, and we also have to talk about the speaker and the listeners. Okay, so all these things are part of a discourse. Okay, this is not the case that okay, something that is bigger than a sentence, that is what is called discourse. Discourse only not only talks about the written form, but it also talks about the oral form as well, that is the speech. And one more thing is that anything that is a text is called discourse. Now, what is a text? A text that conveys a particular meaning, a particular message. It is not mandatory to become a text that okay, it has to have some written things, or it has to have some particular language in oral form or speech. If any poster is there, any banner is there, any pamphlet is there, or any kind of aspect that has a particular meaning, that has a kind of particular message, that is what comes under discourse. Okay. Now, languages actually varies from one thing to another, and this there are two important aspects. One is the use of particular language, and another one is the user. Okay, so based on the use and the user, language varies. Okay, now these variations according to user is called dialect. What is dialect? Can you tell me what is dialect? Can any one of you tell me what is dialect? We talked about language, isn't that? The entire course is on the study of language. We studied language as a whole, and then we studied language, especially in terms of English language. Okay. So, what do you think? What is a dialect? Any one of you? Can anyone would like to give me the answer? Whatever you feel, you can tell me. Leave it. Okay. Am I audible to you? Because I'm a little confused because I can't use my camera right now. There is a problem of
Yes,
power.
sir.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for your confirmation. So, as I mentioned that, okay, language varies according to two things. One is the use itself, and another one is the user who use that particular language. Now, when our language varies, okay, when language varies based on the use of the user, that is what is called a dialect. Now, there could be some other definitions of dialect as well. The regional varieties of a particular language is also called a dialect. Okay, as for example, if I would like to talk about Indian languages, there are so many different, independent languages like Hindi is there, Telugu is there. Now, each of these languages have their regional varieties. Isn't that? Earlier, Telangana was a part of Andhra Pradesh. Later on, they divided into two separate states. But they had some certain dialects in this particular region. Okay, some dialects are called Rayalaseema dialects, or some other dialects is also there, because I am not so much uh, acquainted with all these dialects of Telangana. So you may find that, okay, there are so many dialects. In each language, you will find certain dialects. Okay, so that is not because of the use of that language, but because of the users. Okay, when the users of a particular land, of a particular territory, use a language in you know in terms of so many types of differences, maybe societal differences, maybe educational differences, maybe you can say that the territorial differences are also there. So when all these differences become the reasons to separate a language from the standard form of language, that is what is called a dialect. Okay, so this is one thing, because of what language varies. And another one is the use of a particular language, which is termed as a register. Okay, now register is used to indicate language variation according to use. Okay, now there are various factors that influence the language that we use. Okay, now for that, what we have to remember is that what is communication process. Okay, what is communication process? That means how do we communicate, or how do we converse with a person. Okay, there are several type of communication. There are intrapersonal communication, there are interpersonal communication, group communication. So let's talk about interpersonal communication, where there will be two things must be there. Okay, one is the sender, another one is the receiver. Take the example of WhatsApp chatting. Okay, there must be a sender and there must be a receiver. Okay, you may type certain messages. It may be oral, it may be audio clip, it may be a video clip, it may be a written text, or it may be some emojis or tenors. Okay, so you can send that. Okay, so you are the sender. When you are sending it, you are the sender. What you need after that is you need a particular domain. Okay, you need particular medium. So you then form the message. Okay, typing, using your typing, or using the audio, or the facilities that has been given in WhatsApp. You can make an audio clip, then you may use the emojis, or what is in legal term it is called tenors. Okay, and then you will form it, and then you will use it. Okay, otherwise if you will take it in a real type situation, what you will find that, okay, you do not have any WhatsApp, Facebook, or other messengers. Okay, so you are the sender. You have to, written down or form your message, then you have to send it. So how do we send this message to the receiver, to whom you want to share your message? So what you have to need is that you have to need a medium. It may be a telephonic medium, it may be a social media medium, it may be face-to-face conversation as well. Okay, in most of the cases we do face-to-face conversation, but now just to make you understand, I am just giving you the example of this applications. So you need a medium. It may be a face-to-face medium, it may also be a social media messenger where you can send your message. So the medium is also important. Now once you will form your message, once you will find the medium, what you will do, you will send it. Okay, send it to the sender. Okay, now the sender will receive the message, and he or she will try to decode it. Okay, you encode the message, that is the formation of the message, and then when the receiver will receive it, he has to or she has to decode it to understand that. Okay, and one more important thing is that there should be a kind of similarities of understanding, or you can say that the language in which you are writing the message, that particular language also be known to the receiver. Otherwise he or she will not be able to decode the message. Because suppose I don't know Telugu, and now you are texting me in Telugu language, I won't be able to understood. Okay, so you know English and I also know English, so what will be easier for us, that we have to share the messages, we have to talk into that particular language which is common to both the sender and receiver. So once he will receive the message, he will try to decode it, he will try to understand that particular message, and then what is most necessary in a communication is that he will try to give you the feedback. That feedback doesn't mean that okay, you have conducted a test, you took some classes, or you took some you did certain kind of work, and for that you need feedback. It is a feedback here. Feedback in communication, it means that okay, you have to give response to the message that you received. In response to that, okay, that is what is a feedback. Without feedback, any type of communication is incomplete. Okay, so feedback is very important. Now, to as I have already mentioned, that register is used to indicate language variation according to use. Now, for this use, we need so many things. And I mentioned that okay, there should be a sender and a receiver. There should be also a medium. There should be speech or writing, that is the form of the message. You may write it, or you may send an audio clip, or you may vocally share your message. Then you also have to keep one thing in your mind, is that the uses of language based on particular domain. Okay, now domain is also important. Now what is domain over here? Domain is the place where you are actually conducting your communication. It may be informal, it may be formal, based on the domain. If you are communicating with your friend, that will be a very informal, isn't that? But when you are in a very in a systematic way, you are conveying a message in a very reputed place, maybe in a college, in a university. If you are conversing with your madam, your teachers, you are supposed to be as formal as uh, you know uh, as the situation is, or as the domain is. So that is what also have to be in your mind when you are talking about discourse, when you are talking about the conversations or the communications, both in oral and a written form. Now let's talk about some other things like that. Okay, now what are the things, okay, linguistic features of spoken and written discourses? Now what are the differences between speech and writing, and what are the complexities that we find between written documents, or written language, or oral language, or you can say speech? So can anyone of you bring out certain common features between speech, that is the words or the sentences that we utter through our mouth, and the sentences or the paragraphs that we write in a page or in any other media? What are the differences? What do you find? What could be the differences between two types of language? Can anyone of you tell me? Speech versus writing. Now, what could be the difference? There are so many differences. There could be grammatical differences. There could be, uh, using of markers as well. There could be difference of, punctuation. There could be difference of grammatical repetitiveness and other things as well. So the first thing that comes into our mind is the structure, the grammatical structure that we form. Okay, that differentiates between writing and speech. Now, give me just a simple answer that which came first, writing came first or speech came first? This is our last class, I hope that, and I won't disturb you anymore. So you can, what can I say, that you can endure the pain that you are receiving since last the few classes. So I hope that you can.
Speech.
What?
Hello. Speech.
Okay, so speech came first. Yeah, obviously. Since the beginning of our human civilization, we didn't have language in written form because we didn't have the means to write. Okay, we didn't have the capacity, we didn't have the mental faculty to use the tools to write. We didn't had at that time developed the concept of writing. So what we used to do is that we had oral communication. Even we didn't have the language that we have right now. Okay, we started, okay, the people of that particular civilization used to communicate with some certain paralinguistic aspects like, okay, gestures, body poses, expressions, all these things. And then they started imitating the other animals in the places where they used to live, the birds, the animals. Okay, so other voices, they were used to copy them, and they started producing certain kind of sounds, and gradually we have a language right now. After that, we when we found a language in written form, then we started building certain rules and restriction to make a language very formal. Okay, to make a language very systematic. That's why we bring up with certain grammatical rules. So rules came very, much later than the written form of language. Now, this is one kind of difference between speech and writing, isn't that? That speech doesn't have the requirement of punctuation because we do not say like, okay, that I'm going to school, or therefore, then we have to say comma, then we say and, then we have to take another comma or full stop or colon. So in speech, we do not use certain punctuations. Rather, instead of that, what we use is that we use pauses. So instead of using punctuations, we use pauses in speech, but in writing, we have to use punctuation because we can't take pause and then start right. Okay, so that will be quite difficult in the written form. And one more important thing in grammatical functions as well is that we do not properly follow, okay, we do not properly follow the grammatical functions as we follow it in written form. Okay, we are quite informal in writing, sorry, informal in speech and formal in writing, because whenever we write something, we have to be very careful about our writing. Okay, we do not have to make any kind of mistakes, but in oral speech, what happened is that sometimes we didn't find a suitable word, sometimes we didn't find a suitable phrase, so we change the sentence into another sentence without completing the previous sentence. Okay, so these are some kind of differences between speech and writing. Okay, so now let's move on to some other things like, yes, let's talk about the single aspects of discourse analysis, that is a tenor and domain. Now, what is tenor and domain? Tenor is actually tenor of speech is determined by the nature of the relationship between the participants in a communicative situation. Okay? Now, the tenor of discourse can range from very informal to intimate to very formal or Freudian style. Just as people disparage spoken language in terms of writing language, quite often we find that people think that informal style is inferior to formal style. Okay. Now, these tenors have certain things like politeness of markers and non-politeness. This is how they differentiate, or they may differ from one another. That is formal and informal. Okay. Sometimes it is also very common that we have already mentioned that. Okay, if you are talking with your friend, if you are chatting with your friend, that will be very informal. So you can use any kind of tenor over there. Okay, but when you are speaking with your seniors, with your guardians, with someone who is in a very respected position, so you will not use certain tenors that you are using with your friends, isn't that? You will not give such kind of expression that you are giving your expression to your friend or to your colleagues. So that differs from person to person, that differs from situation to situation, and that also differs from the uh, domain as well. Okay. Now, there is also another thing. You can say that maxims of conversation. Now, when do we start a conversation? There should we follow certain kind of maxims, and the maxims of conversation. This is a concept has been actually came up with the famous linguist or philologist, you can say, Paul Grease. So Paul Grease actually bring this concept that is maxims of conversation. That means the rule of conversation. Okay, so while doing conversation or while writing like a conversation or in a dialogue form, we have to maintain certain rules. Okay, we do not have to go away with these rules. Otherwise, the writing or the speech or the conversation will actually go through certain kind of violation. Okay, if you will not follow these maxims, you will actually violate the rules of maxims. Okay, so what are the maxims? The first maxim is the principle of uh, quantity. These maxims are also called cooperative principle. Okay, cooperative principle means when you will cooperate with these maxims to write or to speak or to converse with someone, these are what actually called cooperative principles. Okay. Now the first one is there are four principles that Paul Grease has mentioned. One is principle of quantity. Then we have principle of quality. Okay. Just a minute. Principle of quantity, quality. Then we have principle of relevance. And then we have principle of manner. Okay. So there are four principles or cooperative principles according to Paul Grease, and that we have to follow in our conversation. In the conversation, we have to follow such principles. And he has also called them as maxims of conversations. Okay. Maxims here means the rules of conversation. Okay, the restrictions of conversation. So he has talked about four types of cooperative principle. The first one is maximum of quantity, or you can say that principle of quantity. Now, what does it actually mean? The principle of quantity states that your contribution should be as informative as required for the current purpose. As for example, okay, suppose when you ask someone, okay, there is already a kind of pact means there is already a kind of a condition between the speaker and the listener. Okay, there will be a kind of pact between them, okay, that the more will be asked, the more will be answered, or as much is asked, as much, in response to that you have to answer. Okay, as for example, let me ask you one question, that if someone will ask that, where are you going? Okay, if this is the question, then you have to answer to the point. Okay, you do not have to add anything extra than this. Okay, just a minute. Yes. So this actually states that your contribution should be as informative as required. You do not have to say more or less. You have to give your answer to the point. If someone will ask you that, where are you going? If you are going to Hyderabad, then you have to simply say that, okay, I'm going to Hyderabad. You do not have to mention that, okay, I'm going to plot number this, house number this, road number this, and the police station, the the pin code. Then you do not have to mention all such things. Okay, you just have to give the answer to the point. So this principle of quantity actually means that you have to quantify your answers. Whatever will be asked, you have to give your answer to the point, not too much, not too less. Okay, and if you will actually say like this, okay, that I'm going to house number this and the second land or street and then Jubilee Hills in Hyderabad or something like that, then that will be a violation of the maximum of quantity. Okay, is it right? Then we have a principle or maximum quality. Now here quality means nothing but that, okay, you should not say something that you believe is false. So quality means if you are asked something, okay, the do you know where is the capital of Telangana? If someone would ask you that what is the capital of Telangana or what is the capital of India, so if you don't know, you do not have to boastfully say that. There are some people that, okay, even though they are not so wise, they actually try to show up that, okay, they know everything. Even though he doesn't have so much of education, he will say that, okay, this is a very simple thing, okay, I can handle this, I have done this and done that. But if you will do that, even though you know that, okay, I know nothing, in such cases you also know that, okay, the thing that I'm going to say in response to a particular question is not true, it is wrong. So if you do that, that will be a violation of the maxim called principle of quality. So you have to share the answer that is very accurate and truth. If you don't know, you say that, okay, I don't know. Otherwise you do not have to give any false answer to that particular question. If you don't know that, okay, what is the capital of India, then you do not have to say that, okay, the capital of India is Hyderabad, or the capital of India is like Bengaluru. Is okay. So you just have to be as truth as uh, the need of that particular questions. Okay, that is the kind of a formal pact, invisible pact between the listener and the speaker. So you do not have to violate that particular rule. The other one is that the maxim of relevance or the principle of relevance. It states that uh, you say it states that what you say should be relevant to the context. That means the answer should be very contextual. If someone is asking you that, okay, what is the capital of India, and you are replying that today is Monday, that is not actually relevant to the context. Isn't that? So what you have to do is that you have to be very contextual. If a question is asked on a particular field, you have to respond that from that particular area. You do not actually avoid that and go somewhere else and pick up certain particular information and put it up or patch it up in that particular as the answer of the particular question. Okay. And the next one is that the principle of manner. Okay. Now the term manner is very self-descriptive over here. When you are talking about principle of manner, it means that okay, you have to use certain uh, politeness markers. Okay, suppose you are speaking with your seniors, suppose you are speaking with your juniors, suppose you are speaking with your friends or colleagues, so you have to use certain manner in that conversation. You you have to avoid certain things, like you have to avoid obscurity of expressions. You have to avoid ambiguity, that means double meaning or double standards of a particular word or phrase or structure. You have to be very brief and very orderly. Okay, so when you will follow all these maxims, your conversation will be a perfect conversation. So, and if you will violate any one of these maxims, your conversation will not be a fruitful one. Okay, so these are the maxims talked about, no, came up with the famous philologist or linguist, that is Paul Gris, and he called them as maxim of conversation or principles, cooperative principles. Okay, is that clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, now let's talk about the varieties of English language. Okay, varieties of English language. That is, we are going to talk about dialects, as I have already mentioned that. Okay, dialect is the regional differences of a particular language. But we can't say that okay, we have regional varieties in India, because in India there are several independent languages, because Hindi is an independent language, English is also an independent language in India. We have Telugu, we have Kannada, we have Malayalam. Okay, we have Tamil. There are so many other languages, Odia, Assamese, Bengali. So so many languages, they are independent in themselves. They are, you can say that parent language. Now, within these parent languages, there are so many dialects based on the regions, based on the users, and based on the use as well. Okay. Now, as we are talking about English language, so here we will talk about the varieties of English language, especially two varieties. Okay, especially the two varieties, that is standard British English and standard American English. These two Englishes are very important. Okay. Now, see, when we are also going to talk about British English and American English, now if you will say that, okay, American English is a separate language, then it is not true, because most of the people, those who are there in America, their origin is also situated in England or Europe. They came in America, they settled there only from where? Only from England during the time of the Civil War that had happened. Okay, when the power transforms from Britain to America, during that time they came to uh, America and they settled there. Now what they used to do is that there are certain regional differences. There are certain regional differences of that particular language, that is English, and these differences are in terms of phonology, that is the pronunciation, then we have spelling, then vocabulary and grammar, then we have other non-native varieties like Indian English. Okay, now what could be the phonological differences between standard British English and American English? Do you find any kind of difference in phonology? That means pronunciation.
Mm. Both the alphabetic are also different, sir.
Both the alphabets are also different.
No, no, R. Pronunciation of alphabet R is different.
Okay,
In British English, they speak the R is from the means the tongue remain between of the upper jaw and lower part. I don't know
Okay.
what to say. And
Yes.
American English R they pronounce is they little bit rotate their tongue, but
Yep.
the tongue will remain in the middle position only. They don't touch both the part, upper and lower part.
Okay. So here in the American English, the R sound is pronounced, twisting the tongue. Okay, remaining the tongue in the middle. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So can you give me an example of a particular word using that R?
It's little bit awkward to pronounce. I don't know whether I will pronounce correctly or not.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay. So phonological differences is one of them differences. Then we will have to talk spelling. Now in phonology, the first thing that came to our mind is the sound system of American English is very clear. Okay, here the sounds are very clear and they pronounce using nasal sounds in most of the cases. Okay, in most of the cases, you will find the American pronunciation is in most of the cases you will find the nasal sounds are very heavy on their pronunciations, on their speaking. Whereas in terms of British English, you will not find this. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Then, as for example, let me take in British English, NOU, okay, sorry, NOW. NOW will be pronounced as now, but in American English, they will pronounce as now. So here the nasal sounds is very prominent in American English. On the other hand, in British English, it is not there. Okay. There are certain other examples as well. Like let me tell you that just a minute. Yes, so like if you will find a word like that end that have two T sound, okay, or two T letters, like better. Then we have butter, gutter. Okay, such kind of words. In such kind of words, in British English, what happened? They actually pronounce the complete word using the all sounds. But what happens in British in American English? This when they will find two T sounds together, they actually make it as da, like better, worder. Okay, so it when they will find two T sounds together, it will become da as a sound. Okay, and one more important thing is that orthography or spelling. In spelling, there are so many differences. In most of the cases, sometimes we use so many words, okay, and we also get confused that okay whether we're using or whether we are following the British English in India or the American English in India. So we make an amalgamation of both British English and American English without knowing that which one is British and which one is American. Okay, as for example, let me tell you some examples. Okay, like color, COLOUR. Okay, so color is a word when you will have two O in this particular word, that is British English. But right now we are using COLOR. Okay, we have omit the U over here. Another example like favor. Do you have the book with you?
Sir, our book, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. So
Yes,
you
sir.
can you turn the page number 271.
Yes, it's open, sir. 271.
Yeah, can you read the examples here? Standard British English and standard American English. Some examples has been given over here based on spelling. Yes.
Mold, MOULD,
Yes.
British English. spelling,
Yeah.
and American English MOLD, mold.
Yes.
Aesthetic, aesthetic,
Okay.
AESTHETIC, aesthetic,
Yes.
ESTHETIC.
Okay.
Fetus, fetus. I don't know if it's correct pronunciation or not, but fetus, FOETUS,
Yes.
FETUS.
Hmm.
Center, center.
Yes. See the
Center.
difference here.
Yes, sir.
Center, later. Okay. In American English, we simply use it as we have to pronounce. Okay. Based on the pronunciation, we also write. But in British English, there are certain other phonological rules, and based on that, we have to write like CENTRE instead of writing CENTER. Okay. Yes. What are the next?
Next is defense, defense.
Okay.
Both the spellings as DEFENCE. Here is lastly DEFENSC.
Okay.
Pretense, in this CE last and in this SE. Spelling differences is S and C.
Hmm.
Apologize, apologize. APOLOGISE, APOLOGIZE.
Okay.
Like that, naturalize, deflection, and retroflexion. Spelling differences are there, sir.
Okay. Okay. So you see that, okay, how these vocabs or the spellings of the words are also different from one dialect to another. Both are English language. In terms, you can say, or you can also say that, okay, English is not a original language. This language is a borrowed language. There was no origin of English language. I mean, English was not a proper language as we have in India. There are so many languages. We have Sanskrit, we have Dravidian languages. Okay, from the Dravidian languages, we have Telugu, Malayalam, Tamil, and all other languages. From the Indo-Aryan languages, we have uh, Sanskrit, Hindi, Bengali, Assamia, Oriya, and all other languages. So, like that, English language had not any kind of fixed origin. Later on, the people of that particular land started their cultivation, started visiting other lands, attacking other lands, and they borrowed their languages into their own, pocket, you can say. They make others language as their own, and this is how it grows and develops. Then we had great vowel shift. Then we had in the Middle Ages so many changes, inflections were actually dropped out. Then now, right now we have this language, and now throughout the world, every country has their own English language. You cannot say that our Indian English language, the English language that we use in India, is uh, is not a, actually single language. It is you can say that, okay, it is a variety. Okay, but it is also a part of our language, because the way we use this language, the way we pronounce, the way we use the words, structure, features, all are actually different from the received pronunciation, or you can say that the International Phonetic Association. Okay, according to International Phonetic Association, our language is completely different, you can say, in most of the cases, our English language. Okay, so we talked about the phonological difference between standard British English and standard American English. We talked about the spelling difference as well. Now let's talk about the lexis, that is the vocabulary. Okay, in terms of vocabulary, we also have different words of the same thing in both these two varieties of language. So as for example, see here, in South India, especially in Hyderabad, because I came here in 2017. So after coming here, I got to know that, okay, here people used to say not instead of zero. Okay, like 105, 107, or something like that. But earlier I didn't know that, okay, we also used to say not instead of zero. Okay, but here I got to know that, okay, when I came here, we got to know that, okay, not is the actual British word. Instead of using not, we are using zero. But the Indian people especially, they follow the British accent. They follow the British system of English language. We do not follow the American system. But as we are connected to both these countries, or both the uh, English language, through social medias, through other medias as well, okay, because now the entire globe has become a global village, okay, because nothing is, far away from us. It is just very close to us because of the connectivity of internet and social medias. So as a result, what happened, we are actually exchanging our ideas. We are, visiting the cultures and societies of others through social media, and we also adopting their culture, their words. And that's why it is very difficult right now to separate yourself totally as you are. You got it? But one more thing is that, okay, right now the South Indian film industry is uh, going to become the most valuable, or the asset of Indian film industry. Though it is a Tollywood, it is going to become far away than Bollywood industry, and it is all because of their respect to their own language. It is all because of the what can I say, that, okay, the belief that they have into themselves. Okay, they believe that they are not so less, they are not so less important than others in this world. They can also do better, much better than others. Okay, so it is because of their love towards themselves, towards their language. As a result, they are now growing more faster than others. Okay, isn't it? It's a matter of pride, obviously, for the South Indians.
Yes, sir. Correct, sir.
Yes, and I will also, respect these things, because we have to love our language. Why will we, accept Hindi as the language? Because that is not the language of the entire country. We have several multiple languages, independent languages. So how can you make this particular language as the language of the country? That's why we do not have any official or national language. We have official language. We have two official languages, but we do not have any national language. Earlier, we had a national language, that was Persian. Okay, but that was again dropped by the Britishers when English became the official language and the national language of our country during the British rule. So this is a very good thing. So this was my experience about zero and not. Okay, so there are other words as well. In British, we used to say tap, whereas in American English, we used to say faucet. Isn't that? Now the jars or the bottles that we use to, fill with liquor, that is what is called tin in British English, but uh, in American English it is called can. Okay, like we can say that, like uh, what can I say, that, okay, when you will go to a shop for liquors like Coca-Cola can, then we have other brands like Limca can. Okay, so that is what is the difference. The thing is same, but there have several words or different words. In British English we have spanner, but in American English we have monkey wrench. We can say compare, and then in American English it is immense, waist, banyan in India. Okay, and in uh, what can I say, that in American English it is called undershirt, like this, the jug, pitcher, garden yard, to book, to make a reservation. So such kind of things, not only in words, but in terms of phrases also, we have certain differences. Okay, then there are other things as well. So based on the acceptance of the meaning, or you can, the semantic changes, there are also certain differences that has been mentioned over here in the below. You can go through it. Okay, then Grammar. Okay. Now let's talk about grammar. As I already mentioned that okay, grammar is not an integral part of a language. Okay. When did the language first evolve? It was very oral. Even we didn't have fixed words for fixed expressions. Okay. So at that time, it will be very futile if you will expect that okay, grammar came first or grammar was uh, you can say that a companion of the speech that came at the beginning of the human civilization. So they were not companion. Grammar came much later when we had a full-fledged language. Okay, when we had a full-fledged language, and to make that language very systematic, the scholars used to write certain rules that okay, we have to use this sentence in this way. We have to use the tenses in this way. We have to use particular uh, aspects of modality of verbs and parts of speech. So that came much later. Okay, now that's why grammar doesn't have ever a part of the integral part of a language. Yet we have certain differences because even though grammar came much later, all the languages have grammar of their own. Okay, but they also follow a particular pattern. They had also a universal grammar. There is also a universal grammar. That is where Noam Chomsky. Have you ever heard of Noam Chomsky? Anyone of you?
No, sir.
Yeah, Noam Chomsky is now the world's number one, you can say the greatest linguist of the world. He is still alive, okay, and he has given a number of linguistic ideas. Okay, you can say that the father of English language or linguistics. Okay? He has given so many concepts, and he has actually, you can say that okay, break so many knots that were unknown previously. There are other linguists as well, like Mac Halliday. He's also a famous linguist. He talks about the functionality of English grammar. Then in India, we also have some other linguists like Braj Kachru and his wife Yamuna Kachru. Badal Sarkar is also there. In India as well, there are so many linguists. They have also great contribution in English language and others as well. So let's talk about here in British English and American English and their differences in terms of grammar. Here are some things has been given like the regular, irregular verbs, the inflectional endings, derivational endings are also given over here. Okay, so sometimes we say like the example like dramatization. Okay, so in such cases, what happen? Sometimes we use z at the end of that particular word, and sometimes we use s. Isn't that like dramatize? Dramatise. Sometimes ze.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this igestion, okay, this igestion is a form of American English, and the normal form that is se is a form of derivational ending or affixes or prefixes of what can I say that British English. Now let's talk about the form of verbs. Okay, form of verbs in terms of there are how many forms of verbs are there? Anyone of you?
Sir, repeat once again.
How many forms of verbs are there in English language? You don't know?
Four. Four, sir.
Okay, what are they?
B1, B2, B3, and B4.
Yeah, there is another V5 as well. Okay, but
Oh,
in
sir.
general, yeah, in general there are three forms. In general, there are three forms. Just a minute. Okay, so in general, there are three forms, that is present form, past form, and past participle form. Okay,
Yeah.
then we have present participle, and then we have a singular plural form. Yes. So let's talk about these three forms, that is present, past, and past participle. Now in British English, especially if we will talk about the words like burn, learn, spoil, dream, and lean. Okay. In British English, we will have past and past participle ends with ta sound. Okay, ta. Like burn, burnt, learn, learnt, spoil, spoiled, dream, dreamed, learn, lean, leaned. But in American English, what it becomes is that we have ed at the end. Okay. Now see here, we all know that okay, some verbs that become a past form, then we simply have to add ed at with it. And in case of the past participle as well, we simply have to add ed. In very few cases, we have to use t only. But see here, the examples are given here. So in most of the cases, if we use British English, we have to add t with that. But in American English, in both the case of past tense and past participle, we have to add ed with that. Okay, this is one of the difference in terms of grammar. There are other things as well. Okay, please you go through the other things. Now let's talk about Indian English. That is a variety of non-native variety of English language, because British and American English language is their native variety. But the language we use here in India is not a native variety, because it is a non-native, because of so many other things, like in terms of pronunciation, in terms of grammar, in terms of especially you can say that pronunciation. Okay, because we do not accurately pronounce, because our pronunciation varies from the native speakers, isn't that? We speak this particular because this is not a mother tongue. Do you have, any one of you have English as your mother tongue? No, we don't have English as our mother tongue. English is either our second language or third language. Now when you learn a second language or third language, it will obviously have the influence of your first language, of your mother tongue. So if your mother tongue is Telugu, the rules and regulation that you have, or the way you pronounce Telugu language, that influence will also be in your English language. That's why we also talk about the mother tongue influence on the second language or English language especially. So that's why it is called non-native English language. Okay. Not only this one, there are other varieties as well. The people, those who are talking, speaking in English in other regions like Bangladesh, Myanmar, Bhutan, Nepal, they are also the non-native speakers. Okay. Now there are certain rules over here that has been given in the book, phonological features and grammatical features. So let's talk about this one by one, that how this Indian English language actually differs from the native English language. The first thing has been mentioned over here is that taking of the first individual sounds, some of the vowels of RP, RP means received pronunciation. Okay, the pronunciation that has been received all people of the world as the standard form, that is what is called received pronunciation, and it has been established by International Phonetic Alphabets or International Phonetic Association in 1986. So here, taking out the first individual sounds, some of the vowels of RP are not found in many varieties of Indian English. Okay, so some of the vowels, how many vowels are there? There are 20 vowel sounds in English, or you can say that in received pronunciation. But some of the vowels are not found in Indian languages, Indian English varieties. As for instance, a and a, these two vowels are not found, are both often rendered as a. So simply these two vowels become one. The RP vowel a to tends to be replaced by a. Okay, now let me give you an example. In most of the cases, especially those people who are not from Calcutta, and I'm giving you an example of West Bengal. Those people who are not from either Calcutta or Siliguri, Darjeeling. Okay, so these are two of the standard forms of the Bengali language. So these are the hub of you can say that prosperity and standardity. So these people are much connected towards the world. Okay, so that's why their pronunciation are quite different from the rest of the Bengali people. Now, Bengali is not a language of the West Bengal only. It is language of Orissa as well. It is language of Jharkhand as well. Because earlier, before independence, Bengal, almost the entire North India was covered by Bengali people. Later on, it was divided into several other states like Jharkhand, part of Bihar, then Orissa, Tamil Nadu, Tripura. Okay, Tripura, then Assam is also there. Bangladesh was also part of that. Okay, so if you will go to other regions, other states, you will find that there are so many varieties. And based on that, if you will see that, okay, whenever we see Bharat, okay, so we use BH, okay, BHARAT, Bharat. That is our country, India. But if you will see in the case of the Bengali people, they have all the letters. As we have 26 letters and 44 sounds in English language, even in Bengali there are more sounds than the English language. Yet they have the problem of pronunciation because they do not differentiate between va and bha. That is bh and v. Okay, so they do not differentiate. They make it as one and they pronounce it. Okay, like whenever they will have, as for example, vote or vocabulary, they used to pronounce it as vocabulary and vote. Those who are unaware of the linguistic functionality of this language, but we have all the sounds as well, because in Bengali language there are three sha sounds. Okay, there are three sha sounds, but we pronounce them as only one. That is simple sa. Okay, seen, see, like this, but we do not differentiate it. This is not the problem that okay they are using, but if you will go to Bangladesh, they people actually used to speak as the language has its functions. They use all the sounds. The Bangladeshi people, okay, they actually use all these things. They do not actually different amalgamate or make a hodgepodge of all the sounds together. So that's what we, especially in terms of the all Indians, we make such kind of mistakes over here. We mix two R sound into a single one. Okay, that is one kind of difference that we that the Britishers or American people found in our language. The next one, can you read the second example over here? 276 page number. Israt Parvin, can you read it?
Yes, sir. This some of the RP consonants. This one, sir.
Yes. Go on.
Some of the RP consonants too are not used by many users of Indian English. For example, instead of the constant V and the semi-vowel W, most speakers use a single frictionless sound, which is like the first sound in the Hindi word Varun, and which can be represented by the phonetic sound V.
Yes. Now see, if you will see the example of welcome, okay, WELCOME. These Hindi speakers, especially, they make an amalgamation of both the V sound and the W sound. Okay, that is the V consonant and the W. They find a middle way between these two, and they use it to pronounce like welcome. Okay, instead of say welcome, they said welcome. Okay, simply, and they find a middle way. Now, can you read the fifth point that is in Indian language?
In Indian English, the
Mhm.
consonants P, T, and K are not aspirated at the beginning of the accented syllables as they are in RP.
Yes. Now, all these pata and ka, they are not aspirated. Aspirated means whenever we will pronounce these sounds, we do not have to, release our air suddenly with friction in the vocal cord. Okay, that is a throat. If you will put your finger in your throat, you will find that okay, if there is any kind of vibration or not. But in reality, we do not have any vibration, isn't that? So in Indian English, consonants pa, ta, ka are not aspirated at the beginning of accented syllables as they are in RP sound. But in RP sound, if they will be a part, if they will become a part of the beginning of a word, like as we can say that if you will listen to the English speakers, they will say pocket instead of say pocket. Okay, instead of saying pocket, they will say pocket, because when this pataka will come into the beginning of that particular word, that will become aspirated. That is what is called phoneme. Okay, we didn't talk about that even though, but that is the rule of recit pronunciation. If they will come in the beginning, they will be aspirated. If they will come in the middle, they will also aspirated. No, sorry, if they will come in the middle, they will not be aspirated, but if they will come again at the end of that particular word, they will be aspirated. So we do not aspirate them, we do not make them aspirated. That means pa become ph pa. Okay, ta become ta, ka become kha. Okay, like if some of if you will find a man whose name is Kamal, so in Indian people, if they will pronounce it, they will simply say Kamal. But if a Britisher will no, if a Britishers will pronounce it, they will say Kamal instead of say Kamal. Okay, so this is what the difference between the Pataka sound of the British or RP sound and the difference between Indian English pronunciation. There are so many other things as well. Okay, so you please go through them. There are grammatical functions as well related to articles, prepositions, verbs. Okay, so you please go through them. Otherwise, if you will have any problem, uh, you can contact to your HOD. If you will ask me to give you any kind of other suggestions before your exams come, then I will let you know anything. If you have any question or query, you can ask me over here. Okay, these are very self-descriptive. You just have to go through it. You just have to read them. Okay, once
Sir,
at your
didn't send that to your PPT as every other faculty is sending, means taking a one candidate student number and giving their PPT sending there. So
okay.
that one can send in the group taking one number, means you can take one student number.
Okay,
So
so
you
any one of you share your number, I will share it.
so we can get.
Yes, share any one of your number. I will share the PPT with you, with that particular number. Okay, is it fine?
Yes, sir. No
Okay, so
problem.
share it in the chat box. I will take it, note it down, and I will share it. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes. Okay. Let me note your number. Is it a WhatsApp number?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just a minute. Is it your number?
Yes, sir. So I can share in the group after sending the
Okay,
page.
okay, no problem.
Sir, one more question.
Yes.
Uh, this phonetical feature means this phonetical symbol is there, no, sir? This
Which one?
written the no, sir. Generally, I'm asking the
Okay.
phonetics words means to pronounce the sounds. The
Mm.
sound symbols are different, no, sir. So how to memorize that means the symbols are very difficult to understand. Means in the question also previous questions they asked to give this explanation of ka sound that so how to memorize all those words, sir?
Just a minute. Okay, so I didn't get the point that you made. That is ka or something like that.
No, sir. Actually, I'm not able to explain you properly.
Mm.
That symbols means, sir, whenever we search on Google any
Yes.
word, so we get one phonetic means
Transcription. Yeah.
yes, transcription.
Transcription. Okay.
So, how to memorize that all that, sir, means that's called phonetic or what? I don't know that also.
Phonetic transcription. That is the transcription of a particular word. Okay.
Phonetic transcription. Okay,
Yes.
sir.
Yes. See, Israt, this is a very basic class for you. Okay. Because if you will go through the goal of this particular book, okay, they have mentioned that okay, this book has been written for those who will just have a glance over the phonetics or how the language have developed, how then we have derived from other families of languages to English language, what are the properties of English language. This is a very basic book, okay, and in
Yeah,
order to,
it's basic according to you, but it's a very vast syllabus,
yeah, obviously
uh,
this syllabus is very vast.
very
We
vast.
are
Even
supposed to complete.
they are asking in previous questions. I have seen somebody send in the group. So
Okay.
there, that phonetic transcription they gave, and they
Yes.
asked to do means give the answer on that. So I was very confused to how to read, how to memorize the vocal sound and everything. Means they gave the sound transcriptions, and
Yes.
uh, they are asking us to explain their sounds.
Okay.
So I'm little bit confused way to read because we have, but written is not
See,
accurate.
one. Let me tell you one thing. Your written exam will be of 70 marks, isn't that? And 30 marks is internal. That is based on assessment and all other things, internal assessment, or it could be assignments, practicum, or other things. And 70 marks will be written. In that 70 marks, there are two sections. Section A, which consists of 8 questions, and out of 8 questions, you have to answer 4 questions only. Okay. And in section B, there will be 10 questions, out of which you have to answer 5 questions. So if it is very difficult for you to answer the questions related to phonetic transcription, you can go with other answers as well. Okay, that will be a good option for you. That's why they have given you double questions when you have to answer only the half of them, isn't that? And this is one solution. But let me give you a very basic answer to the question that you have mentioned. That in order to understand the phonetic transcription, what you have to do is that you have to practice them, because it is completely laboratorical and mathematical. Okay, you cannot master this until and unless you will practice it. So when we were learning, okay, when we were learning, when I was doing my masters, I have completed my masters from Maulana Azad National Urdu University. So there was a teacher, who was the HOD as well, okay, Professor Hasibuddin Qadri. He used to teach us, and all the classes there were no such theory, because in most of the classes he used to take us into the lab, and he used to put the earphone into our you know ears, and we had to listen for 1 hour 2 hour, and then we have to behave like the animals. Okay? We have to pronounce the sounds like animals, and it was a very funny class, though we had learned a lot of things. Okay, so it needs a laboratory where you have to practice with the teacher, with the guider. Okay, otherwise it will be really very difficult.
Yes, sir. Actually, every year they are asking two questions.
Okay, then
So
you can leave that. You just go for the substitution of that two questions. Okay. And if possible, when I will share the PPT, you can also share the previous question, because I don't have the question paper with me. So I will look into the question, and if I
okay,
will
sir.
find any suitable solution, I will share it, and you can share with your entire group. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay. So do you have any other questions? If you want to give me any kind of communicational feedback, you can also give it to me. Otherwise, you can give it to your HOD. Okay, so we have 7 minutes. Let me ask you some few personal questions. May I ask you, related to your education, not anything else? Why have you all opted for distance courses? When you have to do masters of English language, why have you opted for distance courses? At the beginning of the class, I got to know that someone is trying to prepare for UGC NET exam. Okay, who was that? Is she there in this class right now?
Yes, sir. I was means discussing with the Afros.
Okay, so it was you.
Yes,
Okay, so would you like to tell me, okay, why have you chosen distance mode instead of regular mode?
no, actually, as I'm married with two kids, so it's very
Okay, okay, yeah.
difficult.
So I got to know from HOD that most of the students have their jobs, either they are doing jobs, either they are married. So, okay, this is very good, because even you are in a very busy schedule, you have find your time to uh, find some time for study. That's very good. Okay. However, so you can send me the previous year question. I'll give you some certain suggestion over that. Okay. When
Yes,
once I will be
sure.
free. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So if you have any other question, you can ask me simply.
Sir, actually, I'm just whatever you are giving this class,
Hmm.
so I have to repeatedly have to listen and understand that topic. So last class, I have listened 2 3 times so that I can understand exactly what you're talking about the on clauses or phrase meaning, because we have
See, even I haven't complete that. To be honest, that okay, because I didn't complete it as I had to complete. Because if I would do that,
no, sir, actually, you did very much job actually, because
uh,
we have only 8 classes. Uh,
yes,
you tried very hard to explain us,
yeah,
so I can see that you was explaining in the last class clauses, sentences, phrase,
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
But deeply we have to study so that we can understand better.
yes.
So your classes is helpful, sir. No doubt in that.
Uh,
And one, what the thing is, we have to, every student have to read and understand after giving you the means class.
yes, obviously, because we had only 8 classes, and that is really just, if you will start your class, that will only take 8 classes, because in a semester, that means 6 months. 6 months period we have to complete this entire, and that was enough to complete this entire book or the syllabus. But when you have been subtracted, okay, reduced to only 8 classes, that is 12 hours only, it is not possible to complete, as we have to complete it. And the book is completely, you can say the practical. The syllabus, the topic that we are actually dealing with is completely practical. Language and the study of linguistic is really scientific, and you can compare it with mathematics. So that's why it needs much more time. I had tried my level best to give you a very brief and clear overview of the entire syllabus. And if you will go through the PPTs, also they will help you. Otherwise, if you will remember my classes, it will also be helpful for you. Okay, I hope that your exams will be after 2 or 3 months. So
Yes, sir. According to the previous schedule, it was the September end of the week. So
okay,
maybe September or maybe in September we will having the exams.
okay. So you have 3 months, obviously. Within 3 months, you can complete them easily. Okay. If you would find any kind of difficulty or problem, you can let your supervisor or your HOD. Okay. If she will arrange something, then obviously we will try to solve your problems. Okay, later on.
Yes, sir. Actually, after joining this course, it was very blank, sir. But after attending these 8 classes,
Yeah.
uh, at least we are able to understand what our topic is and what means how much time we have to give and what to study and everything, sir. So it
Yes, yes.
classes
And
are
one thing is the books that has been provided to you is also very self-descriptive. If you are able to read and write in proper way, you will be easily understood the book.
yes, sir. But for some like as I said, phonetics. For that
Yeah,
we have to live teacher to understand that pronunciation. So book is not, I guess, sufficient for
yeah.
MA. We want practical classes so that we can understand the actual pronunciation, actual uh, words, sir. So both the things we want, but we are in the distance mode, so this class is sufficient and enough, sir.
Okay, but this book is very important in terms of net point of view as well. Okay, because at least 5 questions will be there from this book, I think, because I have cleared the exam. Now I'm doing PhD, so I think I have a good understanding of this book particularly. From linguistics and language, you will find 5 to 6 questions, and if you will cover this book, it will help you.
Sir, please, we will really feel appreciable to give some points to, means to read what to study or for UGC net. Because some students are really interested to study net to qualify the net exam. It's our first year, but it's not that mean we are not. We will try, sir, for net also.
Yeah,
So
nothing is impossible. If you are
yes, sir, yes,
determined,
that's
everything is
correct, sir.
possible. Yeah.
You just want guidance, sir. Other means your or other faculty guidance. Everyone's guidance was a way to crack the net. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just want you to give some. Means as you said, you have already qualified net. So really feeling great to have you here. And thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, because time is over. We have to bind the class up. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
और एक क्लास में घुसना है, ये फोन दे के जाना मत। बीए क्लास फाइनल क्लास है, संडे को भी नहीं रखेला, ऐसे में क्या काम। हाँ लीव